SCORE Northeast Wisconsin and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biz Talk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences. From starting to sustaining growth, learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you miss anything, you can catch the Biz Talk podcast at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biz Talk on WHBY.
Welcome to Biz Talk with SCORE, along with your regular host, Terry Pinch. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, John. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you. I'm John Drengler. I am guest hosting this week, and we have a very special guest. Tim Riebau is with us, the president and CEO of VPI Incorporated. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John.
Good to have you here. As we get started, some people may not know what VPI stands for. Some of us who've been around a while in the business community might remember Valley Packaging. First of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to VPI, and maybe give us a little bit of an overview of what VPI does.
Sure, glad to. So actually went to UW Whitewater, go Warhawks. And right out of school, I took a job with a Northeast Wisconsin paper company, Wisconsin Tissue, which no longer exists. So it's now part of Essity Tissue, or was acquired for a number of times. Anyway, started in an entry-level sales role in Chicago, and was selling towels, tissue, napkins, toilet paper. And actually, when I interviewed for the job, the guy who interviewed me said, there's a couple of things you want to sell in this world. You want to either sell beer or toilet paper. And so I'm giving you the opportunity to sell toilet paper. There's always going to be a need. So anyway, I took a job with Wisconsin Tissue, had a sales territory in the Chicagoland area for 4 or 5 years, got promoted, moved up to the Valley, was in national accounts dealing with large corporate customers like Cisco and US Foods and et cetera. And it started having kids at some point in time. Wisconsin Tissue actually moved their sales headquarters to Chicago. So we moved back to Chicago, started having kids, and really decided we wanted to raise our kids in the Valley. So started down a path of trying to find employment in the Valley. So left the paper industry, worked for a company called Alta Resources for about 10 years. At the time, they were kind of a small startup called Ameritel. And ran a team there, eventually became the VP of all their customer teams across 3 locations, Appleton, facility in California and Michigan. Did that for about 10 years. Then I had a little stint in private equity where I wanted to buy my own company. And then 2008 happened, and took a job and went to work for J.J. Keller, also in a large sales and management opportunity. Managed all their inside sales teams at J.J. Keller for a while. And in my time at J.J. Keller, I got introduced to a company called Valley Packaging Industries at the time. They were a vendor of ours, and I never really knew they existed. And I remember being in the facility and seeing what Valley Packaging did and how they did it, and thinking to myself, it'd be a great thing maybe to do at some point in my career, maybe at the end of my career, because, and I'll get into Valley Packaging a little bit, VPI, because it was a mission driven business, but it still had a real production business to run. So, which kind of takes us to Valley Packaging Industries, or VPI. We're still legally Valley Packaging Industries, but we're doing business as VPI Incorporated. And VPI has been around for 65 plus years. It was really started to give individuals in the community, young adults with disabilities, an opportunity to develop work skills and an opportunity to work. At some point in time, there was an executive from Kimberly-Clark who had a adult child with a disability, and Kimberly-Clark had a need for co-packing services. And so they started Valley Packaging as a kind of a nonprofit, donated equipment. And probably for 30 or 40 years, all we did was work for Kimberly-Clark. And we've always been about providing job opportunities and job development training for individuals with disabilities or disadvantages. So, and so we've been doing that for 65 plus years, but do much more than that. And I guess I can get into that if you want me to keep going.
Well, I just think stress, you mentioned about in general the mission. I think it's a really important, Tim, part of what VPI is about, and particularly for maybe businesses that might have known all those years at Valley Packaging, a place to take maybe some of our outsourced packaging work and labor. But it is from the start, it meant much more, and it has certainly evolved to meaning much more. Can you just maybe elaborate first on really what the mission is with VPI and what sort of stakeholder groups are you really serving now?
Yeah, I mean, it is really the disability community. And it could be physical and or cognitive, and in many cases it's both. And so imagine it's tough enough to find a job and to hold a job. Well, imagine if you have autism or you have MS or you have Down syndrome. So what are the unique challenges of someone like that finding employment? There's a lot of them. It's how do you manage that individual, their schedule, their benefits, their transportation. So the mission really is always about including those individuals in the work world. And, in today's world, when everybody talks about diversity, equity, and inclusion, this is a group of people we've been trying to get included for 60 plus years. And it's an ongoing challenge. A number of years ago, I was meeting with the Appleton School District, and they dropped the number on me. At the time, there were 1,200 kids in the Appleton School District in special ed. And so that's all sorts of learning disabilities, all sorts of different types of challenges, but all those individuals are going to need to work someday or want to work someday, or their parents are going to want to work someday. And so what is the opportunity now? Let's say they're a senior in high school, they've gone through all their programs. What's next? And I'd say that's kind of where we start, is how do we give those individuals job skills, job opportunities? How do we help get them their first job? So what we do is when we talk about co-packing, the history of the organization is large manufacturers would send their work here. We provide employees to do that work. That's really evolved over time. We still do that, but we also place individuals in organizations throughout the community because, like us, kids today, young people today, don't want the same jobs, that maybe their parents wanted 30 years ago. So not every kid coming out of a special ed program wants to work in manufacturing. Maybe they want to work in a restaurant, or they want to work in a school, or they want to work in, retail. So really it's about helping those individuals finding their right path and then helping them navigate through all that. So the mission has been consistent throughout, helping those individuals find job placement. And then we also get involved in social recreational areas as well, which is also very important to the people we serve.
Tim, what sort of geographic scope does VPI cover for those types of services?
Yeah, we're primarily Outagamie, Winnebago, Calumet, and Wapaka County. We've just started moving a little bit into Fond du Lac, but that's pretty much, we do a little bit up in the Green Bay area and Brown County. But I'd say the stronghold is really Outagamie, Winnebago, Calumet, and Wapaka counties is primarily where our services are.
And I'm aware over the last couple of years, you've done a lot of work as an organization, consolidating, building out some of your physical locations and facilities. Maybe touch on that a little bit too. Where are you located?
Yeah. So for years, we had two production facilities in Appleton, one on Romer Road, Romer in Northland. It was about 125,000 square foot facility. And that was primarily a facility built for Kimberly-Clark. It's kind of product coming in, being converted, going out, going back to KC. And then we have a 425,000 square foot facility across the river, just off of Kensington and College Avenue next to the Menards. That is much more about, we do a lot, when we talk about co-packing, we're putting things in bags, boxes, displays. So this facility at Kensington is really around in-store displays, large scale. So if you think about when you go in a grocery store and they're dropping a pallet in the middle of the aisle and you're just grabbing product off that pallet. Someone's filling all those pallets. So that's a lot of the work we do for large manufacturers in the area. Hoffmaster, Creative Converting, Kimberly-Clark, Reynolds, Presto. We've done work for Trilliant. We've done work for pretty much any large consumer package manufacturer in the area. We've done some sort of display work for. So they're producing product at their facility. So Creative Converting is an example. They make plates and they form plates and they design and produce napkins and cups and cutlery. Well, they're producing all that stuff. They're shipping it here. Then they're placing an order for 500 units of this many plates, this many cups, this many things of cutlery that are going to a Kroger or a festival. We're filling them, packaging them, putting them on pallets. They're going out to our warehouse, and then everything here gets distributed out to large scale distribution centers. So it's a huge facility. We've got 18 dock doors, probably, 25 forklift drivers on any given day. So it's a pretty large facility. And then 100 to 150, probably to 170 employees that work in our facility. So that was for years, that's how we operated. And over the last number of years, a few things have happened. This trend around less work coming to us and more clients. We call someone a client that they're an employee of ours. They're drawing a paycheck, but they're a client because we provide services for them, case management services. So maybe they have a job here. We have folks here that support that person in their job here. When we place them in the community, we also provide them supports in the community. So anyway, there was a point in time where we had 800 clients when anybody who had a disability in this community was working in an in-facility like a Valley Packaging. And at the time, we still are one of the largest in the state. We had almost 800 clients in our two facilities. We probably support 80 clients in our facility today, not because there's not a need, but because more of those individuals are working in the community for other manufacturers, other businesses in the community. So we had two large production facilities. We had a couple office buildings. We had a day center, outreach center. At one point in time, we had 13 buildings and leases. We're a 501c3. We're a not-for-profit. And so over the last number of years, we really consolidated what we do, how we do it. We invested in the Kensington facility. We bought the back warehouses. We put in an isolated packaging area that allowed us to sell the Romer facility and invest those dollars into other programs. And then we bought a building on Casa Loma right by the T-Rat Stadium. And so all our human services are done there, our birth to 3 programs, our day center, our job coaches, our accounting team, our HR team. So we've got kind of a human services building, and then we have one production facility in Appleton now on Kensington Drive. So a lot of change over the last, that probably took 2.5 years to kind of go through all that consolidation.
As those services and those changes of your clients have evolved, did it really also affect the staffing for VPI? Not only the number of people that you need, but also their qualifications for the various services.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. So we've got our clients, and then we've got what I'll call at-large employees. We hire a lot of employees off the street that are working in our production facilities, but they're also, human services professionals. One of the things we learned when we went through COVID, so, even us, the world that we're in, the work that we're in, even us, we'd say, we've got this job. There's only so many clients that can do it. We can't use clients on that job. We're going to have to use kind of at-large employees on that job. Well, when COVID happened, our most reliable employees were our clients for a number of reasons. Most of them are getting here via public transportation. They want to be here. Many of them live in a group home or they live with their parents, and they want to go to work. It's not only work, but it's socialization, it's purpose. And it's just part of their routine and their they didn't have the ability to work remotely. And we don't anyway in our production facility. So we found that our most reliable group of employees were our clients. And at that point, we said, we've got to expect more out of our clients. We've got to get more. We've got to train them on more things. It really even reminded us how capable the people that we have are. And it's just really giving them the opportunity to learn develop, provide training, and just provide opportunities to do some of these jobs. So, the client, we're seeing less and less clients because they have other opportunities and maybe want to do other things. So in order to keep this operation running, we've got to hire more people, at large employees off the street, which is not an easy thing to do. Cause we're a nonprofit, we compete against large for-profit organizations. So our wages aren't as high. Our benefits aren't typically as good. So it's been tough over the last number of years. But we will also, hire individuals that maybe other large organizations won't. We'll take second and third and fourth chances on people, regardless of what their, history's been and their background's been. We're all about giving people, opportunities that they might not otherwise have. And so now most large employers in the area that wouldn't consider someone 10 years ago today, their filters have loosened a little bit too as the job market has loosened. So that obviously puts more pressure on us, but we've always been able to successfully staff to the needs of our customers, and we've went through some challenges over the years, but have kind of come out all right on the other end. So we feel pretty good about where we're at.
Good,
okay,
thank you.
We're gonna take our first break. You're listening to Biz Talk with SCORE and WHBY. I'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back. We're glad you joined us this morning for Biz Talk with SCORE. Our guest today is Tim Riebau, President and CEO of VPI Incorporated. Before continuing our conversation with Tim, I'd like to tell you a little bit about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin. We serve an 18-county area in Northeast Wisconsin, plus Menominee County in Michigan. We have approximately 25 volunteers. Each of them is an expert in their field. And SCORE offers entrepreneurs no cost and confidential mentoring. Those areas of expertise include IT, social media, marketing, cash flow, accounting, strategic planning, HR, best practices, and many more. In order to register for a no-cost confidential mentoring session and to learn more about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin, please visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. You can learn more about how SCORE chapter can assist you with starting and growing your business. Just go to our website and complete an application for a mentoring session. Once you complete the online form, submit it to SCORE, and within a few days, a SCORE mentor will be contacting you to set up a meeting. Remember, SCORE is no cost and offers experts who can assist you in many different areas of your business. Again, to get started, visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And to ensure that we continue the support of entrepreneurs and small businesses, SCORE is always looking for new mentors and subject matter experts. If you have experience and would like to share this with others, we'd sure love to talk to you. We welcome volunteers with experience in all aspects of business, and small business owners really need your help and expertise, and it can make a real difference in their success. Again, go to score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, click on the volunteer button, and fill out a short application, and we'll get back to you shortly to explain more. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on Biz Talk. And now we're back to our conversation with Tim Riebau.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Sean. Hey, Tim, I lived in the Valley twice, and I moved here the first time 34 years ago, almost 34 years ago, when Kimberly Clark transferred me here. So I knew much of the old VPI because the group I worked in did a lot of work with VPI. I was in the tissue side of it at that time. And so we did a lot with them. So I was surprised when I was hearing about it recently, about all the different things that are happening, what you do. And one of those things is a lot of the partnerships you do. Can you talk to us and our listeners about those working partnerships and how they facilitate helping your clients grow and learn?
Sure, would love to. Yeah, I mean, what we do, I think, years ago, right, you could kind of do this on your own, right? There was enough infrastructure in place. And, if you think about just think about the Kimberly Clark relationship, how many senior executives from Kimberly Clark were in town, and, you just had a lot of connections. And as that has changed and evolved is, it's really all about, you need relationships with your counties. I mean, a lot of the programs we do are programs that the counties used to manage. And they're still responsible for, but they're just doing it a different way. They're doing it through an agency like a VPI. You have our customers, anyone that we're doing product or anyone we're doing services for, packaging services for. You have all the great foundations that we have in town. I mean, if you think about this area, you've got the J.J. Keller and the U.S. Venture and the Oshkosh Corp and just the Community Foundation and just all the great partners. The school districts, we've got significant partnerships with most of the large school districts, most of the school districts in the area who are looking for social opportunities for their students, job opportunities for their students, specifically, students coming out of special ed. One of the things the schools are responsible for is transition services. So I've got this student who's been in special ed, and now they're partially responsible for what's next: housing, work, transportation. So the school districts are big. And then associations. Last year the last few years we've run a camp introducing young people to manufacturing, young people with disabilities to manufacturing as a career. So just the sponsorship opportunities that they offer, and then just local individuals in the community, the donations, support. We had a capital campaign, our first in our history last year. We raised over $750,000, and just the amount of people it takes, to kind of build an organization and keep an organization like this sustained. John had mentioned it earlier. Most people that know us because they had a brother or a sister or a cousin or an aunt or some sort of a business relationship. But a lot of people don't know who we are because they've never had a reason to be associated with us. So all those connection points are really important to us. And it really does take all of that. Customers providing business to us, counties and state governments and federal governments and grants and all the local, like I said, all the local groups are all critical. And then other like agencies. The United Way is a big supporter of ours, and we're a big supporter of the United Ways, as an example. The YMCAs, we have programs with the YMCAs. So all those things are critical to our success and what we're trying to do and help advance, the lives of the people that we support. So we certainly can't do that without all those other folks.
Okay, great. Thank you. We're going to take our second break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY, and this week we're talking to Tim Riebau from VPI. Before we get back to Tim, there's a couple educational opportunities I wanted to mention. First of all, just as a general update, if you go to our website, score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, you'll see a tab at the top of the page for workshops and events. Now, if you go in that tab, you can find literally thousands of either pre-recorded or upcoming webinars and seminars. There's also various online courses. And there's one I want to mention. It's called the Startup Roadmap, and it is a really good way of learning about all the things involved in starting up a company. And you can do that, sign up with SCORE to get a mentor, and you can have that mentor help you in certain areas as you work through the modules. So again, that's the Startup Roadmap. One other course I'll mention that's coming up, and again, that's on score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, is a course for nonprofits called Becoming Grant Ready. It talks about the importance of learning how to raise funds. And it's on October 28th at 10 o'clock. For some of our courses, there will be a small fee now. As people may know, we don't have as much government funding at all anymore, and we're raising money on our own. And some of the courses will have $10 to $25 charges. But this is a really good one for people wanting to start a nonprofit, or are running a nonprofit and want to learn about how to get grants. So it's Becoming Grant Ready and what you need to do to prepare for that. So those are two to think about, but you can go to the score.org/Northeast Wisconsin website, and in the workshops and events tab, you'll find a whole bunch of them. So with that, we're going to turn back to Tim. And Tim, we want to start to get into a more detailed discussion of your programs and services. So let's start with the educational programs. Can you talk through what you're doing, why you're doing them, and what are the opportunities for your clients?
Sure, absolutely. It's been a significant growth area. It's really about, again, getting to these individuals when they're young, when they're, juniors and seniors in high school, and they're starting to think about work. Their families are starting to think about work and what their life's going to look like after high school. And again, many of the kids that we're serving and working with are kids that are in special ed programs in the various school districts. So there's a couple things that are going on. First, I'd mentioned earlier, a number of years ago, we started a summer camp to introduce kids to jobs and careers in manufacturing. And it really was a 4-week camp where in the morning they would come in. It would be classroom, and they would learn about work and about how to act at work and about how to get along and about, what they're going to see in the work environment and how to be safe. And then the afternoon they would work at VPI on a production line, and they would actually go out there and work, and they draw a paycheck. And it was really to introducing them, number one, to work, how to work, what it means, then to actually go work, and then to get that reward, which was that paycheck, which for many of them was the first chance they had a paycheck. And we were approached by an organization, the fabricators, it's a fabricators organization, a trade organization, saying they've been doing these manufacturing inclusion camps around the country, and they wanted to do one for kids in special ed and, really tap into that employee base. And we ran the camp, and it was successful. I think we ran our first camp, maybe we had 6 or 7 students signed up. Now we have waiting lists. We'll have 15 to 18 students going through that camp. And so that, starts to, again, educate them on working and how to work and what type of jobs are available. And I would say what I've seen out of them, it's almost more impactful with the parents than it is with the students. Oh, my son will be able to work. What kind of job? I mean, we'll go to these graduation events and parents will say, well, how did he do? I mean, will he have a job? And I remember that first class, we had 8 or 10 kids, and I'd said, we'd hire all 8 of them. I mean, by the end of camp, they were all productive workers, and we would hire all of them. But their goal wasn't to all get a job with us. So it really is about showing them and showing their parents that they're going to have a work life after school as well, maybe just like their other kids or just like they had. So we have programs like that, camps. Then we have other programs where we work with local employers on a similar program where they're internships. So we have a program with Kimberly-Clark, U.S. Venture, Lawrence University, Oshkosh Defense, Miller Electric, where we're actually a student will be placed in one of their work environments for a semester. And again, classroom work in the morning, and then they will do a round of internships in those employers. They might work in maintenance. They might work in office. They might work in janitorial. They might, whatever. At Lawrence, they have a security team. And so these kids get a rotation, again, education, classroom work, and then these internships where they actually get paid and they get exposed to other jobs and other employers other than VPI. And so school districts love the programs. And then the employers love the programs for a number of reasons. Number one, it's great for the kids that they're giving these opportunities to, but it's also an opportunity for them maybe to hire some of these kids. It shows how committed they are to the community. So those programs have just grown exponentially over the last number of years. And we see them continuing to grow. Employers are more ready for it. The students and the families are more ready for it. The school districts are more ready for it. And there's a little infrastructure built around that. So we do a lot in that area.
Tim, do you find the success? I mean, the word of mouth must spread on this amongst the organizations you mentioned. Does VPI have the capacity, the wherewithal to take on more interested corporations or schools and, to come into the program like that?
Yeah, we do. And we typically go in, John, like, hey, why don't we start with 2 students? Let's test this out. And then, we're working with the school districts to say, hey, we've got these 2 jobs at X, and this is what we're looking for. This is the type of skill set. And the school districts say, oh, I've got folks. What happens is once you develop those programs, the school districts will say, I want those 6 slots at U.S. Venture. Or I want I want those 4 slots. Now all of a sudden they want to fill them. Mm-hmm. We have a great program called Project Search at Ascension Hospital, which is fabulous. It's an Appleton School District VPI Ascension partnership where students have to apply to get in, and they're great jobs in the hospital, from working in the labs to working in the cafeteria to just all sorts of jobs throughout a hospital. And the hospital hires many of them afterwards. So, but yeah, I think do we have the capacity to take on 5 at a time? Probably not, but we certainly have the capacity to start small with an organization and start to build it out. And we put infrastructure around it. Typically a leader runs the program and works with the school district on finding the students. And then when they work in those facilities, then we provide job coaches as well, right? So the students are at Lawrence University. Maybe they go to the classroom in the morning, and then the afternoon, there's a job coach with them, helping them in that job, following their tasks, helping support them. So we're providing that support as well. And that's probably one of the toughest roles to find, is that job coaching role. There's a huge need for that, where we'll go to any employer and say, we'd like to place so-and-so in your facility. And oh, by the way, we'll provide a job coach. And the job coach could potentially be there for 4 hours with the student, maybe 4 hours the first week. And then the employer, and we figure out he doesn't need us there for 4 hours. Maybe we'll come every other day, or maybe we'll come for 2 hours. And it's really kind of an evolution. And sometimes the student needs the job coach there the entire time based on what their abilities are. So, but yeah, we have, it's an area where we're investing more, and we certainly have capacity. And really, it's got to be an employer that's got a fair amount of different type of work is what we're looking for. Mm-hmm. So that kids will get an opportunity to do different types of things.
And I would imagine too, they also have the variety of work, but they also must have a wonderfully open attitude of their workers to work with not only the client, if you will, but also the job coaches, and take on some of the responsibility for managing a diverse workforce.
Right. And that is one of the challenges, probably the primary challenges. There's a huge group of potential employees out here that we serve. And so you'd say, well, why companies are looking for employees? Why are they not all finding work? And, they all have unique needs. And so if I'm a company and I've got 10 people on my team, that's great. I manage those 10 people. What I don't manage? I don't manage kind of unique behaviors. I don't have to manage transportation. Many of these students and employees have guardians. You and I have always dealt with employees. You might not be able to deal with the employee. You might have to deal with the guardian. Then there's government benefits. Many of them are on Social Security, so they can only work so many hours. They can only make so much money. So there's a lot of challenges, believe it or not, for hiring people with disabilities. You'd think it'd be just the opposite, but there are a number of hurdles you have to get through and a number of challenges you have to deal with. But I'll tell you, once you find that individual and they're a good fit for the work and for your culture, they're culture changing. I mean, it just feels better to work in an environment where our clients are in, and the energy they bring, and it's just a different work environment. There are challenges like anybody that does work, but they're just different types of challenges, and it's tough for employees. I mean, even us, I'd say I'd love to have an employee work at our front office. Well, what would they do? We're not looking for made up work. We're looking for real work that we can plug a client into, so they can, they don't have to worry about that piece of work, as an example. So it's not always as easy as it would seem.
Sure. There's a couple other programs that caught my attention and interest, and I'm curious how they evolve. You have an early intervention program and mental health services as well. They seem very complementary to the employment and education opportunities. Just can you touch on those a little bit as well?
Yeah, the early intervention program, or Birth to Three, is a federal government mandated program. Every county has one, and it is just that, Birth to Three. So if a child is born and there's some sort of a development delay, or maybe if they're born with Down syndrome, that's not going to change, right? But if they're born, maybe they're 1 or 1.5 and they're not walking, or the parents worried that they're not talking, typically a physician will say, well, go talk to the birth to 3 program in Outagamie County, as an example. And then they'll call and we'll kind of do an intake. We'll ask some questions, but birth to 3 programs are basically just that. They're working with babies to 3 years old on, developmental challenges. And so we have intake resources and early childhood development resources and physical therapists and occupational therapists, speech pathologists, depending on what, right? My child's not talking. I don't think they're hearing things appropriately. So basically they're working with our team, and then, they're working on skills, just like physical therapy today. You hurt your shoulder, they send you to physical therapy. You want to go to physical therapy and you want them just to fix your arm. What do? They show you some exercises, then you got to go home and do the exercises on your own. So it's the same thing. We're going to have someone come into that home, assess what the challenge is, and work with the child, but we're almost going to work as much with the parents, on what that challenge is. And so there's 2 things. Either number 1, it's corrected. Maybe they're not talking because they couldn't hear, and they needed tubes in their ears. And once they got tubes in their ears, now they can hear, and all of a sudden their speech caught up, and and then once they're beyond birth to 3, then the school districts are responsible for them. So they either go into school with the issue or the challenge corrected, or they go into the school districts now with a plan. Here's an individual we've been working with. Here's a child we've been working with for 2 or 3 years. Here's the plan. Here's where we're at with them. Here's the support they're going to need now that they're that they're 3 and 4 and 5. So those programs, we do that for Outagamie County and Winnebago County, and they're really, really impactful programs. And if you kind of look at it, so now many of these families and kids, we're working with them when their kids are, babies and 1 and 2. And then potentially again, we're working with those families when those kids are 18 and 19. Now they're coming out of the school system. So it's really, really, impressive to see. And, could there be anything more traumatic for a parent? They have a parent with some unique challenge and they're just looking for someone that can help them and support them. And that's basically what these teams do. And it's pretty spectacular. So some counties run those programs themselves. Some counties have outsourced those programs to agencies like VPI.
Gotcha.
It's one of the reasons we moved away from Valley Packaging Industries. So imagine if you've got a speech pathologist calling you back because your child, is having an issue with their speech, and you're calling from Valley Packaging Industries. So that part of our team would usually move away from that. They didn't want to, they were just the birth to 3 program. So it's one of the reasons we moved more to VPI and away from, that really descriptive term. We still do a lot of packaging services, but we do so much beyond that.
Tim, in the last minute and a half in this segment, one thing that I want to hear more about is the diaper bank. I've participated in that multiple times in my career. Can you tell us, our listeners, about that and what it's all about?
Yeah. So the diaper bank is actually a United Way Fox Cities program. It has been for over 15 years. They get donated diapers and distribute them to their market to families in need. It could be low income daycares. It could be shelters. It could be just families. And the cost of diapers is the story really is, obviously the cost of diapers is significant. And if you can't afford diapers, you allow your kids to sit in diapers that are not clean, which leads to other long-term health problems. So years and years ago, the United Way started doing the diaper bank. We provided Valley Packaging, VPI always provided logistical support. We have warehouses and forklifts and the ability. So we would house the diapers, and all the diaper repacks would be done in our facility. And then a number of years ago, along with United Way, Bolt and Myron and Kimberly Clark, kind of build a more of a permanent diaper bank in our Kensington facility, where large volunteer groups come in and pack these diapers are donated by large consumer products good companies, primarily Kimberly Clark here. They're packed by volunteers, and then they're donated to these different agencies and families in schools and daycares, where families have a need for diapers. It's a great program. It's one of the best large group volunteer opportunities in the Fox Cities. I mean, who doesn't want to help young families and babies, and it's a great program, and it's a United Way VPI program, but it's primarily a United Way program supported by VPI.
Okay, great. We're going to take our final break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY, and we will be right back.
Welcome back to Biz Talk with Score. We'd like to take a few minutes to thank our sponsors and donors. We couldn't present Biz Talk without their generous support. First, a thank you to Hailing and Associates. Hailing and Associates helps small businesses and individuals, not just with preparing their tax returns, but also planning for the future. Hailing and Associates, personal connection, positive results. Also a thank you to Johnson Financial Group. Wherever you are in life or the life of your business, Johnson Financial Group works to understand your goals and provide the banking and wealth services needed to help you complete your mission. A thank you to the Business News for promoting our program in their biweekly business newspaper that services Northeast Wisconsin. The paper contains relevant and useful information about the business community in the region. We'd also like to thank and recognize the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for their generous donation to Biz Talk with Score. And finally, a thanks to New North, a regional marketing and economic development corporation, for their promotion of Score. The New North facilitates economic growth and helps people in this region live their best lives. So again, a big thank you to all our sponsors and donors. And now to wrap up, we're talking to Tim Riebau, the president and CEO of VPI. And Tim, why don't you tell our listeners how they can contact VPI should they want information on your various services, if they're interested in donating or volunteering? Why don't you give some information on that, please?
Yeah, the best way is going to be our website, www.vpi.org. All our information on what we do, how we do it, whether it's a donation, the types of production we do, the types of equipment we have, the services we offer. That's the best place to start. My email, all our key leaders' emails are out there, so easy way to get connected with us, and you can reach out to any one of us and we can get you to the right person.
Thank you very much. One thought as you were speaking before the break comes to mind, what challenges does VPI face in the coming years to continue delivering and building upon your mission, and what do you kind of see as the future?
Yeah, I think there's a number of challenges on the production side. You got to have significant, large manufacturers, mostly in consumer products, to do the things we do. There's fewer of them here in this area, as there once were. So developing our customer base and finding more customers. So we've got a sales challenge like a lot of organizations. I think just in general, technology, is the cost of it, the advancement of it. Nonprofits haven't spent a lot of time and money there, right? We've protected our data, et cetera, but that's going to be an ongoing challenge. And at the end of the day, I would say nonprofits face the same problems that for-profit organizations do. And one of the paths we've gone down is we're pursuing, and we're involved in a merger opportunity right now with an organization called VARC, V-A-R-C, a very similar organization, about the same size as ours. They're based in the La Crosse, Viroqua area. And one of the things that we've identified is just the cost associated with what we do, the efficiency. We need some scale, we need some growth opportunities. And we believe a merger of organizations puts us in a position to be a greater advocate for the people that we support, to be more efficient in what we do, to bring some programs into these markets that they have and grow that way, to bring some programs we have into the markets they're in. And ultimately, like any reason why any for-profit organization does it, growth opportunities. We have customers that sometimes our ability to serve them is not enough. Now we'll have 8 production locations across the state. We'll serve more than 3,500 individuals, and so there'll be a lot of efficiencies through that. Probably one of the better ways to describe and explain that is today, if we're trying to find someone a job in the community, we might find them a job at Culver's. Now we can maybe go to Culver's and say we can place people through 18 counties in all the Culver stores, just that type of scale. So that's our path. Is we believe we'll be stronger together, and think we'll see a lot more of this in the future.
Well, Tim, certainly with VPI in our community, it makes us stronger. And we thank you very much for your time today. It was very informative. We appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for listening to Biz Talk, and we'll talk to you again next Saturday.